Hey everybody, welcome to Two Out the First. It's January the 8th, 2025. I'm Ryan Ballingy. Thanks for being here. We're going to talk about TGL's debut today. That's going to be the primary subject of the show. Talk about some critiques of the format, some critiques of the broadcast, what we liked, what we didn't like, and then some stuff we hope we never see again, namely DJ Khaled. And we'll also talk about some LIV signings or rumored LIV signings that I think are of interest, and then we'll wrap up the show talking about the Pacific Palisades fire out in California, and it sounds like some reason to be hopeful that Riviera Country Club is not going to be damaged as part of what turns out to be a massive disaster in the Los Angeles area. Before we get into everything, we're presented by our friends at 20s. Check them out, 20s.co, and use the promo code GolfNewsNet25 and save 25% off your first order. Now, TGL debuted last night, 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN from SoFi Center, Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Palm Beach State University or State College hosts each and every week. We had the Bay Golf Club. We had New York Golf Club taking on one another. And I had a good time. Flat out had a great time. I really enjoyed watching LIV, or watching LIV, what LIV could have been in a way with team golf. But I really enjoyed watching TGL because I think in part I didn't know what to expect, right? I mean, going into this, I don't think anyone really knew what we were going to get. Even the people who might have attended the walkthroughs with the seat fillers and all that stuff, the weird controversy about that was a non-controversy. Even the people who saw those kind of walkthroughs, they weren't really sure what to expect in terms of what you were going to get in person with a couple thousand people there, what you were going to get on TV in terms of the experience. And I think that set the bar not low, but just couldn't set it at all. So you didn't know what was going to happen. I think that it can work. My questions are how to make it a little bit better to make it work a little bit better. But some positive takeaways right at the outset. The pace of play was awesome. The shot clock was incredible. And if nothing else comes out of TGL after the end of all of this, if it results in the PGA Tour adopting a shot clock, it will be an enormous win for everybody. And I will love TGL forever because it was great. It was almost too fast to have a 40-second shot clock because it was hard to kind of set the context for things, which you normally get because there's a lot of time and a lot of walking and a lot of surveying on professional golf on TV. You didn't get that here because there was 40 seconds to hit a shot and you needed to keep it moving. I think that worked almost too well. I would almost rather see like a 60-second shot clock than a 40-second shot clock. And you could take out things like the intermission. You're going to ultimately take out that kind of 10 or 15 minutes of pregame that sets up the match and also sets up what the heck's going on here. Those things will eventually be pared down. Get rid of the intermission stuff. You could expand the shot clock and just give just a little bit more time, just a little bit. I think that the shot clock was a brilliant thing, though, and I'm very happy to see that it was well embraced. You talk to all the players who competed. They had a news conference for the Bay Golf Club. They wanted a Route 92. We'll talk about that too. But the Bay Golf Club guys, you had 3 of the 4 players on each team playing. That'll be true every week. So you had Ludwig Aubert, you had Shane Lowry, and you had Wyndham Clark as part of it. No Min Woo Lee this time out. And they were all asked after the fact if there's anything they would take from TGL to adopt to the PGA Tour. And all said in unison, the shot clock, which I think is a great thing. I hope Patrick Cantlay feels the same way when he has to play on the Atlanta Drive team. We'll see how that goes. But I really liked that piece of it. I enjoyed the different golf holes that they picked, right? They picked 15 out of the 30 holes that they have in the library. They brought out the spear hole where it's basically like 2 arrowheads touching one another, which I thought was a cool hole. I thought some of it was patently ridiculous, as it should be, right? I mean, there are grandstands behind some of the holes. Like the spear hole had grandstands behind it. In what universe is that possible? Why would that be there just to allow grandstanding off the stands? I thought that was kind of funny. But a lot of the holes did have cool architectural features. It made you think a little bit. The physical gameplay I thought was cool, where you had to have it on grass or have it in longer grass for the rough or have it in sand. By the way, they're using sand that's basically master sand. They're using Augusta National style sand, like the really good stuff, which I think is pretty cool to spare no expense for, even though you're not going to use a ton of it day to day. It's not like it's going to get blown away by the wind or whatever. But I really like that. I liked that they had little touches. So on sand shots, they had a kind of flap, a turf looking flap that came up to set the lip for the bunker. So you could have a steep lip or you could have kind of a relatively low one. I thought that was a cool idea. I think that they could have leaned in a little bit more on the technology piece of this. I would have liked to have seen more launch monitor data on each and every shot. You're getting it. Why not show it, right? I think one of the things I heard from a number of people was they had a hard time tracking the golf ball from when it was hit off of the physical surface to when it hit the screen, right? So there was kind of this moment of, I don't know what's happening. And then you got the result of the shot and it started to play out on the screen. I don't think you can do shot tracer. I don't think it would work quickly enough to be able to do it. So you're not going to catch that. And really, it's not going to give you any context anyway, I don't think, because you're not following but for 1 second. What I think they could do to kind of offset some of that mystery, so to speak, even though I think the mystery kind of worked, is what they do on a number of PGA Tour telecasts now, where they'll have, instead of showing the tracer live in the shot, they have the overhead view of the hole. And then as the player hits, you see the tracer moving in real time on that overlay of the hole. I think that could work out really well, offer some additional context, give people who are watching a better idea of what the hole really looks like, right? Maybe that doesn't work perfectly on some holes, like the ones where you have like 3 fairways or you have one fairway that's way out to the right, like the last hole, where if you played to the left, it was like 750 yards as a par 5. But if you hit it straight onto the canyon thing, canyon top, you would have an opportunity to go for it in 2. But I think you could do that and offer a little bit of at least a visual for people about where the ball is going before you have to watch it on the screen piece of it. So I think that can work. That can be improved. I think that was good for the most part. I loved the transition to the green zone, as they call it, where you hit the sand shots and your chip shots and the putting. I really liked that. I thought that was cool. I liked that you could do it quickly. I really loved the format when it was triples. The triples part was the best, where you could kind of figure out a lineup, tee shot, second shot, putt, and then start it all over again. There was better banter there. There was more teamwork because the players are trying to figure out how the greens rolled, where they rolled quicker, how to chip off of the artificial turf surface, which definitely proved a challenge. And still, you also got some cool shots there as well, like Matt Fitzpatrick using the slope on the one to kind of play up the slope and then come back down to the hole. That was sick. I really enjoyed that. I'd love to see more setups where that's possible. I think that'll be a lot of fun for fans. I think overall that worked out pretty well. What I would like to see, though, is have a better idea of how the greens work and how they change from one hole to the next. We really got none of that. I mean, they showed the lifts working underneath the surface as kind of a demo video several times, but every time they walked off of that putting surface at green zone, went back to the simulator to start another hole, they had to do some work to change it, right? You had to get ready for the next hole. You never saw any of that. And I think that's a big miss. I think one of the coolest things about this is that the green rotates and can be different on every hole. And if you don't lean into that, you just go, oh, well, it looks a little different. But how is it different? What changed? So what I would like to see is some kind of view of how that changes over the course of a hole, just even like a quick view, over the top view or something, while they're playing the start of the next hole. See what the green's going to look like. See how it changes. I'd love to know how much it rotated. I'd like to know with a little topographical graphic that they can surely project onto the green. What looks different? How did it move? What was the plus minus? Those types of things, so that you as the viewer can feel like that surface is different each time, instead of just coming back to it and going, hey, it moved like 3 degrees left and that hill wasn't there before. What did that do? I think that they can do that pretty quickly. From a commentary kind of flow perspective, I thought it was kind of weird to have Matt Barry in there Matt Berry's an accomplished broadcaster. I'm not knocking him specifically. I just felt like he was like a man on an island out there, and he's asked to do a bunch of different things. He's asked to offer commentary, but it almost was too quick to offer commentary. And he's also trying to be a prompt to the players who are wearing the earpieces so they can have the microphone and talk too. And the thing that doesn't work and doesn't work so often in like the match type stuff is when someone talks to him through the earpiece and goes, "Well, how about that shot?" And then it's like a really leading question. The player goes, "Yeah, that was cool," or whatever. And then that's the end of it. I would much rather kind of scale back the amount of commentary needed, not because I think Matt Berry's bad at it. I just think it's just not as helpful, and lean into the players talking, especially in that triples format where there's a lot more interaction, a lot more conversation. Go with that a little bit more. Let them be natural. I thought Shane Lowry was great on the mic. I think he's someone you're going to love hearing from. I thought Xander was pretty funny. I thought Wyndham Clark came across pretty well. I think Matt Fitzpatrick can be quite funny as well. I thought it was a good thing. Ludwig was a star, man. Ludwig Aubert was a star. I mean, he played well, first of all, but he also really seemed to kind of open up and smile and pantomime. And I think he captured a lot of attention among female viewers from what I saw on social media. So you've got a guy who's a potential star in the making because he can show his personality. We think of him as like a robot on the PGA Tour, DP World Tour. He's not. Clearly, he's got a personality, clearly a fun guy. I want to see more of that. I want more of that to not be hampered by anything going on. I don't think we need interviews with DJ Khaled. Please never put him on the telecast again. I know he's going to be back somehow. He's going to be back every week. But please take that away. Please make that stop. Marty Smith is fine. I mean, I think he's kind of a polarizing guy, whether you like him or not. I hope we get to see a little bit more Claire Rogers on the broadcast. She does a great job with the scoop for golf.com. And she talks to these folks on the reg. Like she's good at this. I think she has a really good tone that would work well for the TGL style. I saw some criticism that it was too lighthearted. Like there's nothing they're playing for. Well, that's kind of the point, right? Is like, oh, you don't know the money they're playing for. Well, people get mad that we talk about money, but then they demand to know from TGL what they're playing for. You gotta rectify that with yourself. I don't think the money thing really matters at all. It would be helpful to kind of know what the stakes are a little bit better, more than just like, hey, they're playing for this trophy at the end of the year. I think there could be some improvements there. Maybe you have an opportunity to, I don't know, have like a closest to the pin contest for $25,000. So, just something to kind of spice it up a little bit. But I think those thoughts kind of crept in for a lot of people, primarily because it was a blowout. Like if this were a closer match, then the shots would be more and the players would be more interested. It's also the first week. You really don't know yourself what you're getting into. So I think it's kind of hard to make something seem important and serious when you've never done it yourself, right? Like the first time I ever threw darts at a dartboard, I was just trying to hit the dartboard and smiled at it because that's what I was trying to do. And then as I got better and started playing in tournaments and competitions and stuff, then I internalized what it meant to me a little bit more. It's going to take time. That's not going to happen right away with this. But the point is that this is kind of not mindless, but kind of turn your brain off entertainment for a couple hours on a Tuesday night. What else are you doing? Maybe watch some college basketball in January, February, and March. I guess that's it. Like that's the only thing that's on. You're going to watch hockey. You're going to watch the NBA. I mean, there are plenty of criticisms that those regular seasons are too long and games are meaningless, blah, blah. You can watch this for 2 hours, be happy, go to bed. Maybe crack open a couple of beers, have some snacks, enjoy it. I think that's a good thing. Let's kill the intermission. Let's get rid of that. That's totally unnecessary. Let's keep this thing moving. We didn't need 5 or 10 minutes of break. It's not like they're working hard or walking far or anything like that. Just keep it moving. Keep things going. I realize it's kind of a port for commercials and kind of getting those ads running. Find different ways to do it. Do the playing through thing. I can live with that. Because this thing moves so quickly, playing through can work kind of well. You're not losing a whole lot in an ad. You're losing probably a shot. Hit a shot in the commercial, come back. Hey, everything's cool. I think that can work out pretty well. All things told, I think it was a win, right? There are things that can do better. There are things that can absolutely be better, and they will get better pretty quickly. The in-person experience is going to get better. Sounded like they were kind of disconnected from the conversations we're having with the players. They couldn't hear them, right? We could watch it on TV. They couldn't in person. That's going to change. They're going to get earpieces or whatever, kind of like the Amex radios you get if you ever go to the U.S. Open or major tournament, and you can listen to the broadcast. They'll probably do that so that you can hear the commentary from the players while there, and just listen to that, lean into that a little bit more. Let the crowd kind of come up behind the LED boards around the green zone type stuff. Lean into that a little bit more. Let them make it a more intimate experience. This is meant to be an intimate experience in person. Make it one. Let those people have fun with it a little bit more. Encourage that kind of thing. Encourage banter. Encourage singing. Encourage fun. We heard some of that a little bit. Encourage more of that. I think that would be a cool atmosphere for it as well. Overall win. We get Tiger Woods next week. We'll see how he does. I assume he will take it mildly seriously because he's a very competitive guy. But if you can kind of get more of Tiger's personality out of it, all the better. We'll see what happens there. And then you get Rory after that. And I think 4 or 5 weeks in, we'll have a good flavor of what this is, what this isn't, whether people enjoy it, whether they don't. I know that there were a number of people who are like, I'm out, no, thank you. I hope you enjoy it. I don't care for it. That's going to happen. That's everything. That happens in everything. The challenge for TGL is getting people to come back next week. Just like any other sports league that's ever sprung up out of nowhere. You can get people with curiosity the first week. And that's why Tiger and Rory didn't play. They knew people would tune in regardless to see this. And then the next week, your job is to hold on to like 50% or more of the audience. Well, they can do that with Tiger and they can do that with Rory. So they're hoping to kind of extend that run, let people give it a 2 or 3 week trial, and then say, okay, I kind of like this. I'm going to stick with it through the season. That's what their plan is, their hope is. We'll give them that leeway in an expectation that they're going to figure it out. All right, let's talk a little bit about a couple of news items from LIV. They announced the rest of their schedule for the 2025 season. They added some stops. They kind of filled in some gaps. Intriguing to me that they're going to have events all throughout August that are up against the FedEx Cup playoffs. Their season now ends in August. So it's February to August, pretty truncated for the 14 events. They're not going to let it creep anymore. I think that's a smart thing on their part. They added stops. So they added the season-ending team championship is just outside Detroit, this place called the Cardinal, St. John's in Plymouth, Michigan. They're going to come back to the D.C. area. They're going to go to Robert Trent Jones Golf Club, which just had the Solheim Cup last year. They're going to go back to Trump Doral in Miami. So they've filled out the slate, and that seems reasonable. I think, that's fine. It is what it is. In terms of rosters, though, there doesn't seem to I think we've more than confirmed that there's not going to be a ton of player movement here, right? 2 things make me think that. One, the Stinger team, the South African group, they announced that Brandon Grace has been re-signed to the team. He's going to play again, despite being supposedly relegated from the league standings, not getting through the LIV promotions thing to reclaim his spot. And after all of that song and dance of you're out of the league, you got to play for your spot back. All right, well, we'll just sign you back. But what? Then what was the point of relegation? And I don't understand that. The Range Goats signed a kid from New Zealand who played very well on the Asian Tour, didn't quite get a spot through their Order of Merit because no one got a spot through the Order of Merit through the strangeness of that rule. So they're closer to a full roster of players. And then the rumor out there from 10 Golf, which I'm pretty sure they're out of Spain, and they're legit. They're a good publication. This is kind of weird rumor mongering. There's a report from them that Tom McKibben from Northern Ireland, who is about to go to the PGA Tour, or at least hypothetically about to go to the PGA Tour, playing in the Team Cup this week on the DP World Tour, playing in Dubai next week on the DP World Tour, that he's going to sign with LIV Golf. And he was asked about that in Abu Dhabi ahead of the Team Cup, and he basically punted on the question, said he's not going to talk about that, which is a really polite way of saying I don't want to upset the DP World Tour by telling them I'm going to leave in front of their first event of the year. So you would expect him to be out the door. And he mentioned that he hopes to be part of the Ryder Cup someday. And I think the reaction that's kind of interesting because one side, everyone kind of the default reaction is it's for the money. He's getting the money. Well, he's Tom McKibben. Like he's one of the DP World Tour, and that's cool and all. But it's not like they're throwing him a $45 million deal to play LIV Golf. That's long gone. So he's hoping to be able to cash in with guaranteed money in the purses and to maybe play pretty well against the remaining competition that's there that really hasn't been beefed up at all. And then maybe And here's the other part. Maybe there's something in the works, and we don't know, between the DP World Tour and the Saudis. Maybe there's going to be a deal between the DP World Tour and LIV to kind of have back and forth player movement and no fines when you play a LIV event if you're a DP World Tour member, that type of thing. We don't know if that's coming, but if that's coming and Tom McKibben and his people feel that's pretty close or likely, then signing with LIV isn't as big of a deal. He can still go play the DP World Tour stuff, and it really wouldn't be a problem. That could be a possibility. That could be an indicator that that is something that's going to happen. So we'll see about that. But again, we've been hearing for the better part of like 2 months now about the deal is imminent between the PGA Tour and LIV, or the PIF, and the investment's going to be done, and yet it still lingers. And I think this maybe is an indication that that could still be lingering in one fashion or another. But you never know, that thing could change very quickly. So thought that was interesting. We'll get, I guess, a finalized set of rosters pretty soon from LIV. Their first event's about a month from today. So we'll get an idea pretty quickly. But I think this is kind of the bulk of the player movement you're going to see going into their 25 season. Let's wrap everything up today with some conversation about Riviera. If you've been paying attention, or you paid attention last night, there are multiple wildfires burning in the Los Angeles area. It is horrifying if you watch any of the coverage. I mean, it looks downright apocalyptic. The winds that came from the Santa Ana winds were blowing at hurricane force overnight. I saw a couple of wind meters in the hills in Los Angeles at blowing at 200 miles per hour. I mean, that's more than Category 5 hurricane status. That's crazy. A lot of fire moving. There's the Pacific Palisades fire. There's an Eaton fire. There are a couple of others. The Pacific Palisades fire started, I think, around 10 a.m. Pacific time yesterday. Quickly went from nothing to 220 acres to 700 acres to 1,200 acres. They evacuated 30,000 people. You know, there's a lot of people and their possessions that were in the line of this fire. And overnight, the winds were horrible. It seems like the winds may have shifted to a degree, so that may spare anything around Riviera Country Club from being damaged as a result of this. But still, there's going to be a ton of property damage, a lot of vehicle damage. There's just going to be a lot of stuff that burned to the ground or burned to a crisp because of this. And hopefully as many people as humanly possible got out in time, and that we don't have many fatalities from this. And golf is totally secondary to all of that. We'll see how this happens, if it can get contained. It was basically 0% contained when I went to bed last night at 11:30 Eastern time. We'll get a better update on that today. And hopefully, as I said, the winds start to die down as the Santa Ana winds move, and the emergency personnel that are working day and night to try to get this contained as best they can be as successful as possible. So we're thinking about them and everyone in the area. That's going to do it for us today on the show. We'll be back with another show tomorrow. We've got the Sony Open in Hawaii starting on the PGA Tour. On Friday, we won't have a show. I'm going to be heading to the Bahamas to record the first couple of episodes of The Road to French Lick, our Corn Ferry Tour show on GNN TV. So please tune into that. We appreciate that. And I'm going to play in the Pro-Am on Saturday, so we'll film some content around that as well with my co-host, Brendan Sweeney. Shoot me a note if you got any questions. Ryan at thegolfnewsnet.com, on social media at Ryan Ballingy or at Golf Newsnet. Thank you again for your time today, and we'll see you next time on Two Off the First.